parking trucks or equipment or whatever. That's where I parked my truck.
Do you remember, did you stay on the path? Did you go to a side?
Nope, I stayed onto the path and went onto the concrete or cement area that they had made for parking.
Was it more to one side than the other on the path?
Nope, it was totally on the southeast side, whatever side it was.
So more, that would be, thank you.
Right in, say right about here.
Okay, so it's pretty much on the southeast side of the path. Thank you. Well, while I have you here, why don't you show us then, did you see, you said you had a couple other people with you. Who were they?
One was my grandson, and the other one was a friend of his that sometimes they spend the weekend at each other's house, and I made them come along with me to help pick stone.
Okay. Now, your grandson, which one? Would that be Thomas?
Yep.
Is he called Tommy?
Yep.
And the other person, would that be Jacob Vincent?
Yep.
Did you bring either of those boys with you?
Nope.
Okay.
They
Then,
were already there when I got there.
when you parked your vehicle, what did you then do? If you'd like to have a seat, please do so.
Well, they were working with the four-wheeler, and then I had told Tommy to take the skid loader and go dig out the big ones that we couldn't lift. And me and Jake just kept picking the small ones with the four-wheeler and the trailer.
Now, is that the general approach to that area? Would Thomas have come in the same way?
Yep.
Does he live in the same area you do? Would he have come up Hoffman also?
Yep, he would've came the same way I did.
Okay. And then that's the path that one uses to get to
Yep.
that location? Is that yes?
Yes.
I'm sorry to make you talk at the same time. So, do you know approximately how long you all were working and picking up the rocks before something unusual happened?
Oh, boy. Hour?
Okay. And that was, at that point, primarily what you're doing, no planting, just gathering up and
Right.
moving?
Yes.
Okay. At some point in time, can you tell me, did you move into an area where you made an observation that was very unusual?
Yes, when you come in the lane, you can see where the tree line is there, and it's kind of looks like it's gravel or whatever. And then there's a hill, a pile of ground, I should say, in between those trees and this way from that. When we went in between there was a wooden fence post laying in the field that I got off and picked it up and just threw it over the hill. And then I was kind of looking, and I said, the boys were further that way from me. He said, is that a dead deer down there? And they were looking at it different. From the angle they were at, they could see perfect. They said, no, that's a body. And then I told them to get the hell out of there.
I'm going to ask you, with course permission again, if you could approach the exhibit. If you could show me where you first thought you saw the deer.
Right about in here.
So for the record, you're kind of indicating sort of the middle of the picture in the front of the
Yep,
tree line?
'cause right here starts a pile of ground that they had, and it comes down, and there's brush and trees, and then it narrows on the bottom here. And I don't know what this bare spot is, but it was right in here. Because this is where the other pile of ground was. We had picked this, and actually, there were spots along here where we dumped the stones
Okay.
over the hill as the trailer got full. We had came back to finish picking around this area here, this pile of ground.
And for the record, you were mainly working south of the area where you saw,
Yep.
saw what you thought was a deer?
Yep.
Thank you. Then you're standing about where when you make your observation?
Probably here,
Okay.
right along this edge.
And are there trees in your way and
Yeah,
vegetation?
Brush.
Brush? Then with respect to you thought it was a deer, you didn't have a good view of what exactly you were looking at, is
No.
that correct? Where exactly then, where approximately were Thomas and Jacob?
They were a little more this way,
Okay.
and they were, well, right in here, and they were looking at an angle, like a different angle than what I was. Because when I went over there after they took off to load, I could see the body perfectly.
Okay. Where you were standing when you first made your observations, is that totally level to where the body is, or is there a bit of a slope downward?
It's totally level till right about here.
Okay.
Right from here where we had work to here, the grass was maybe knee high. But right on this side, then it dropped off on the slope.
Okay. Thank you so much. You have a seat if you would. Appreciate it. So you are advised by the boys that, no, that's a body. Is that what you?
Yep.
And what was your response?
Well, I was kind of shocked, but I thought, I just said, get the hell out of here. You don't need to be seeing that.
Okay, and what did you then do, sir?
I dialed 911. And the officer said to walk away. And then I didn't get as far as the lane, and he was in the yard already, and then I took him back to where he could look at it. And he asked me if I touched anything, and I said no. Then he said to go back by the vehicle.
And when you say he, you're talking about the officer that arrived? And approximately how long would you say it took from the time you made the phone call to the time that the sheriff, was it the sheriff's department?
Oh, 10 minutes?
Okay. And it was Brown County Sheriff's Department that
Yep.
showed up? Was it all 10 minutes, do you think?
It could have been. I don't remember exactly on that.
And when you told the boys to go back to the road, were you meaning go back towards where your vehicle was parked?
Yeah, where my vehicle was, I told Tom to park it by the road, so the officer, because I told him there'd be a red pickup truck sitting by the driveway where they could turn to come in. And Tommy just drove it there and sat there and waited.
And I take it when you told the boys to go, they did so and they didn't touch anything?
Nope, they didn't touch a thing. They wheeled her.
And you told the officers you didn't touch anything. Is that accurate? You did
Yes.
not
Yep.
approach the person who you'd found?
Yep.
You did watch, though, that the police went down then and took over the scene. Is that correct? Is that yes?
Yes.
So did you all have to stay at the scene for a while to give statements?
Yes. I can't say it on the accurate, but I think we all give 5, 6 statements to different detectives off different Bellevue, maybe police, Green Bay, Brown County officers and detectives, and then there was a lady officer, I forget her name.
Sure.
There was a lot of them anyway.
Do you know approximately how long you stayed at that area? Just hours?
Oh, it was probably 7:30 before they left us go at night, when they were done asking us.
And is that correct? You had gotten there about 1 in the afternoon?
Yep.
I don't have anything further, thank you.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, excuse me if I ask questions. I'm not really know much about farming, so if I understand it right, you were picking rocks because this land hadn't been farmed before?
Yes.
Okay. And you were about to plant hay?
Yep, when it was all cleared.
So-
Because there was a lot of stones and rocks and a little bit of everything that you pick up, something that didn't get tangled in the machinery to break anything.
So it sounds like that field hadn't been farmed for?
No.
Okay. Now, so you started on the picking rocks on the south side of the field, is that right?
Yep,
And you were working your way north, right?
yep.
And at the time you're doing that, you didn't see the deer or the body at that time, right?
Nope.
It wasn't until you picked up a fence post,
Yep,
and when you picked up the fence post, you had to carry it to the edge of the field, didn't you? Okay.
yes.
So then when you pick up the fence post, carry it to the edge of the field, you throw it down the ravine?
Yep.
Of the
And,
ravine?
yeah, I got to the edge of where we had already worked and just stepped into the grass along the outside, and I just tossed it. And then, I don't know what made me go another step, and then I looked over the hill and saw something that I thought it was a dead deer.
Okay. Okay, is that when you shouted at the boys?
Yep,
Okay. And the boys were a little bit to the west of you?
west, yep,
And you indicated that the boys could see that it was a body.
yep.
Now, when they told you that, you two didn't approach it, right? You stayed at least
Well,
30 feet, I thought.
I thought they were kind of joking at first, so I walked over towards them and then looked. And
Okay.
from their field of vision, you had a clear view could see better.
So you just got a better view, but you didn't go down to where it was?
Nope, I didn't.
And then you had the boys go to the road to wait for the officers?
Yep.
You had your cell phone on you?
Yes,
And you called 911?
yes.
All right. And then you waited for the officers to arrive?
Yes.
Nobody else came in between?
No.
And the officers,
You, Mr. Van Dyke.
Yeah.
You may be excused.
Thank you.
Next witness.
Received a call of some people found what they thought was a body laying in their field, their farm field.
And where was this body located according to the dispatch?
They said it was near the field in the tall grass brush area.
Do you recall what city or village?
It was in the village of Bellevue, Brown County.
And are you familiar with where that location is?
Yes,
Are you able to approximate how far that is from the sheriff's office?
gotta be a half mile.
And did you ultimately arrive to that dispatch call?
Yes, I did. I was first one there.
When you got there, was anyone else on scene?
There was no other police officers on scene. There were two young boys standing by the road waiting for me.
And did you speak with these gentlemen?
I don't know the exact time, but it had to be within a half an hour of me being there.
and then you went even further. You had Brown County Public Works, I think it was. You have them barricade the roads?
Yes.
What does that
Brown
mean?
County Public Works is like the highway department.
Okay.
They have traffic barricades that can block off the road better than a police car can.
So you have them drive those to the Hoffman Road
Yes,
and place them on each side,
Yes.
on East River and on Bellevue?
yes.
And do you remember about right time you called Brown County Public Works?
I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact time.
Would 2:20 sound about right?
Yeah, that would sound about right.
And after that's done, I think shortly after that, about 2:25, don't you call the medical examiner, right?
Yes,
And some squads had accumulated on the road, is that right? Right by the Hoffman Road, or the scene where the body was found?
a couple of squads were on the gravel field access driveway.
You had them moved,
I
right?
had them move off there, yes, including myself.
So up until about 3:45, it kind of sounds like you're directing things?
Yes,
And that's when Captain Poteet arrives and,
yes,
is it Detective Lopna?
yes, Sergeant Lotno.
Sergeant Lopna, I don't, yeah, he earns those, I don't. And Tracy Stephens, right?
Yes,
And numerous other officers from the police department.
numerous officers from the sheriff's office, and there was some from the Green Bay Police Department also.
Thank you.
Any redirect?
I-
Officer, thank you. We step down.
And then may the witness be
Oh,
excused.
yes. The witness is excused. Thank you. Next witness.
Field call officer Calvano.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Please state your full name and spell your last name.
Deputy Bongo. Last name V as in Victor, O-N, L-O-H. First name Kyle.
Thank you.
Okay, you may be seated. Attorney Saunders, when you're ready.
Can you say for the record how you're currently employed?
Yes, I'm a patrol officer for the Brown County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you been employed in that capacity?
It'll be 3 years into March.
And can you briefly describe some of your duties as a patrol officer for the sheriff's office?
Yes, my duties at the Sheriff's Office are patrol, enforcing traffic laws, state laws, ordinances, various federal laws.
Deputy, directing your attention to May 21st of 2016. Do you recall if you were on duty on that day?
Yes, it was.
What was your assignment on that day?
I was a Bellevue patrol officer.
At about 1:54 p.m., you recall receiving a dispatch to a location?
Yes.
And what was the reason for that dispatch?
There was a dispatch of a potential body in the grass area off of Hoffman.
And did you ultimately respond to that location?
Yes,
Were you the first officer on scene?
I was one of
Who else responded approximately at the same time?
myself, Sergeant Lau, and Deputy Sang before.
And once you got on scene, what did you do?
I pulled in behind Sergeant Lau, and we were led by Richard down to where there was a potential body. He led us down there. We looked, verified what was down there.
Going back a little bit, you said you pulled in. Can you describe where you parked?
Yeah, I pulled in directly behind Sergeant Lau's car on the driveway that goes to the field off of Hoffman.
And you remained on that driveway portion?
Yes.
What did you observe when you went with Mr. Van Dyke?
Observed a Caucasian female down an embankment slope, face down.
Were you able to make any other observations of the body?
Yes. Which direction her feet and head were facing. Her head was facing south, feet were north.
Were there any clothing on the body?
No. Female was naked, face down, socks on.
And could you describe the embankment you stated was there?
Yeah, it's just a sloping down embankment, and it kind of levels out as you get to the bottom.
Do you recall approximately how steep that embankment is?
Not really, no. It's steep enough to safely walk on.
And at a certain point, did you go closer to the body?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
To check for signs of life.
And have you received training with respect to that?
Yes.
And did you ultimately perform any tasks to determine whether there was life?
Yes, I went down. I took an indirect path down to the body, outside of approximately 10 feet, and I walked towards the body. Checked to see if there was any signs of life. There weren't. There was no pulse. There was some type of stiffness in the joints, and the body was cold to the touch.
At this point, were you wearing gloves?
Yes.
What did you do after that?
After that, I took the same path that I took down there, back to on the top where the field is, the dirt portion. And after that, I took photos.
You did take photographs of the scene?
Yes.
May I first look at this, Your Honor?
Go ahead.
Now, Deputy, I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 2. Are you able to recognize what that exhibit is?
Yes.
And what does that exhibit appear to be?
It's the field that's off of Hoffman Road.
Is that a photograph of that field?
Yes.
And you took that photograph?
Yes.
Based on your recollection, does that photograph appear to be a fair and accurate depiction of the field as you recall it on May 21st?
Yes.
I'd ask permission, I'd offer the equipment, Your Honor.
Any objection to
Exhibit 2 or subject to cross?
subject to cross 2 is received?
And permission to publish, Your Honor.
On the screen?
Yes.
All right, let's read that.
Now, Deputy, this photograph depicts the tree line in that field, correct?
Yes.
And where are you standing when you took this photograph?
This is at the edge of the driveway in the field where they meet.
And do you recall which direction you're facing when you took this photograph?
This is west,
Okay.
facing west.
And there do appear to be tracks in the field. Did you drive your squad car through the field at any point on May 21st?
No.
I'm also going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 3. Are you able to recognize what that exhibit is?
Yes.
What does that exhibit appear to be?
This is the brush area between Hoffman Road and the field.
And that is a photograph of that area?
Yes.
Based on your recollection, does that appear to be a fair and accurate depiction of that location?
Yes.
And you again took that photograph as well?
Yes.
I'd offer Exhibit 3 into evidence, Your Honor.
Subject to cross, any objection to 3?
Subject to cross, no objection.
3 is received.
And permission to publish.
Yes.
Deputy, in the background, is that Hoffman Road?
Yes.
And what is this photograph?
That's the brush area that we've been talking about between Hoffman Road and the field. And then the body is located in the area of those.
A few more questions, Deputy. You described you took an indirect path to the body, is that correct?
Yes.
Are you able to point out on that Exhibit 4 the path you took?
If you showed Exhibit 3, that would better depict the path I took.
Photograph 3?
Yes.
Exhibit 3? Are you able to point out on Exhibit 3
Yes.
the path you took?
This area about right here, I went down.
And again, you pointed towards the middle of the photograph at where the grass starts?
Yes.
Okay. And can you point out the path you took to the
Yes.
body?
I went down the embankment to be in line with the body, and then I walked towards the body.
So as we're looking at the photograph, you're moving right, but that would be east, is that correct?
Yes.
No further questions, John.
Cross-examination.
You took that route so you could get, it was a little flatter if you went that way, wasn't it?
Sorry, could you?
Well, the body was down in a ravine down the hill, right?
Yes.
So you, instead of going a direct route, you took a route where it was a little flatter.
I don't know that that was my intention. My intention was to not disturb anything.
And get there safely.
Yes.
So you arrived at the scene at about 1:54,
Yes, sir.
and you stayed on the scene until about pretty late, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
You remember what time you were done?
Around 2 a.m.
2 a.m.? How long were you at the scene?
I performed various duties throughout that period. I had left occasionally. So,
You're not sure. All right. So you were there when it got dark, right?
yes.
Are there street lights on Hoffman Road?
Not that I recall.
How did you guys work at night?
There was lighting provided by some other entity. I don't know who provided that.
So lights were brought in.
Yes, sir.
Were there a lot of them?
I don't recall the amount.
They were big though, right? So
Yes, sir.
show the whole area.
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Any redirect, Attorney Saunders?
Briefly, so the path you took, was that the shortest distance you could have taken to the body?
No.
Why did you take the path you took?
To ensure that I didn't disturb anything, I just assumed that, that the most direct path taken by somebody else was straight down the slope. I felt that was the safest way to ensure the security of the scene and not disturb anything down there.
I have no further questions.
Any recross?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Witness is excused, and you may step down from the witness stand. Thank you. Next witness.
Your Honor, at this point, the remainder of the state's witnesses are scheduled to come in at 1. I would ask if we potentially take a break for lunch at this time.
All right. Excuse me. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about, it's going on 11:45. And if you haven't heard, again, the schools are closing 2 hours early. We're not going to go until 4:30, given the weather conditions. sounds like we're gonna meet back here at 1 o'clock, and then we'll see what the lay of the land is or what the weather is at 1 o'clock, and I'd like to go at least till 2:30 today, maybe 3 o'clock. We'll see where things are at. We don't want you driving in any really bad weather, but for now, we'll have an hour and 15 minutes for lunch. We'll reconvene here and begin again at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Thank you.
All rise.
And he explained that our assigned task was to canvass the area on Monroe Road, south of Hoffman Road, checking dumpsters and garbage cans, etc., for evidence of the incident.
And did you and Deputy Bill go do that?
We did.
And do you know about how many different areas you canvassed that evening?
I would say approximately 7 that were located garbage cans and dumpsters that could be checked.
And you indicated those were areas to the, to which direction from the field where the body was located?
Well, Hoffman Road east to Monroe Road south from Hoffman. So generally the area would be south.
And Monroe Road, does it go by another name?
County Road GV.
For a point of reference, that's also County Road GB. And then do you know about how far south on Monroe Road you canvassed?
Approximately down to the area of Dickinson Road. To give you an exact distance, I couldn't do that.
But down to the area of Dickinson Road. Dickinson Road, is that also County Highway G?
I believe it is, yes.
Do you know what businesses specifically that you canvassed?
We checked, and this maybe more, but I only checked the Grand Central Shell Station, Shopko Express, Greystone Ale House, I believe a business called Hendricks Leasing, which actually runs between Monroe Road over to Creamery Road, so that address would actually be on Creamery Road. We checked the Isaac Walton Conservancy Center, another, I believe it's a business called the Old School or Old School Square, and then we did check Ledgeview Park.
And what items of evidentiary value were you specifically looking for, if you recall?
Again, it would be clothing items or anything associated with a crime having been committed. I'd imagine something with a blood substance on it.
Were you actually called out to the scene of Hoffman Road to observe the scene where the body was found?
That night, on the 21st?
Correct.
I did not enter the scene on the 21st.
Prior to doing the search, what information did you have about the scene to guide your search about what you were looking for?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
What information did you have prior to actually going out to canvas? What information did you have about the types of items that you should be looking for?
Again, I just had the knowledge that someone was deceased, a female, and that there would likely be blood on those items, and we were to look for clothing or anything else that might be included, or evidence of that crime.
And if you had located anything of evidentiary value, what was the plan?
The plan would be to notify the supervisor and then have a detective come out to secure the evidence.
Did you locate anything of evidentiary value at those areas that you checked?
At Ledgeview Park at 2064 Dickinson Road, I did find that the bathrooms were unlocked in the park pavilion. I entered the men's room. To the right of the sinks was a garbage can. Approximately halfway down that garbage can, I did locate multiple paper towels that, based upon my training experience, appeared to contain blood. Some of them were twisted up. At that point, Deputy Bilgo contacted the patrol supervisor, and some detectives were sent out to look at those items. They did arrive. I was advised that they did not appear consistent with the scene and would not be collected.
Do you know if those items later were collected?
They were collected the next day by Sergeant Derek Brown.
But you did not collect them at that time based on what you were told from the investigators?
That is correct.
About what time that night or the next morning did you discontinue your canvass of the area?
We cleared from duty, or I logged off at 1:21 a.m.
If you had noted any weapons during your canvass, would you have believed that to be an item of value?
If I had located a weapon, yes.
And that would include a gun, if you'd seen a gun in any of your search?
If I had seen a gun, yes, I would consider that a value.
Did you find a gun during your search?
No, sir.
And the only item that you referenced of evidentiary value or item that had any blood on it was when you located Ledgeview Park?
That is correct, that night.
Did not locate any other items that night during the canvass that had blood on them?
No.
Were you asked to continue to assist with this investigation the following day?
Yes, sir.
What was your job duty the next day?
The next day at approximately 11:30 a.m., according to the crime scene log, I arrived at the crime scene, and I assisted with a grid search of that area.
Could you describe what that is, grade search?
A grid search? Ultimately, the officers lined up in a straight line a certain distance apart. I can't recall the exact distance, to adequately cover surveilling the area for any items of evidence. So I would say, an example would be one officer is our arms reach away from one another. That way we can adequately see the area for any potential evidence.
And were there other officers that were present to assist in that grid search?
Yes, sir.
Do you know about how many?
I believe it was around 8.
And when you say this, you were at the crime scene, are you referring to the farm field off of Hoffman Road?
That is correct.
You and several officers conducted that grid search. I assume that did someone serve as an evidence custodian if any items of evidentiary value had been found?
I'm certain, I believe it was Lieutenant Valley. I couldn't say for certain, though.
Did you personally find any items of evidentiary value in that field?
I did locate a couple, an item that I thought might have been of evidentiary value. When I was on scene, there were vehicle tracks leading to and from the area where Nicole's body had been located. In the path of those tracks, I did find a rock or a chunk of asphalt that appeared to have a fresh scrape to it, as if being struck perhaps by a vehicle rim. That item was photographed and subsequently submitted into evidence. Lieutenant Whitehead collected 2 soil samples and turned them over to me also to be submitted into evidence, which I did later.
And you mentioned that you also took some photographs. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Certainly. Walking around the tire tread area, I did observe areas where the tread impressions did appear to be more distinct, although still somewhat hard to see. I did photograph the areas. It was after speaking with the supervisor, and I can't recall if it would have been Investigative Lieutenant White or Investigative Captain Conrath, I was authorized to attempt to use, it was an aerosol sunscreen that was brought out to us. It was a pretty sunny day. And I used that because the contents kind of dropped down on top of the tread pattern, making it more visible to photograph. So we did attempt a hairspray. I'd contacted Deputy Brandon Dewey, who had some training in evidence collection, and he said that one of the more conventional ways was to use hairspray. Unfortunately, the contents of the hairspray can were too light and would drift away in the breeze, and the aerosol pressure was too strong that I was concerned that it would blow away, or would disrupt the trend pattern.
And then, so you used the sunscreen and then took photographs of what you observed?
Correct.
In terms of doing tire impressions or castings, is that something that's within your area of expertise?
That is not within my area of expertise. My training is very minimal on that.
So that's not something that you were asked to specifically do to attempt to cast or to make a determination about whether those impressions would have been sufficient for casting?
Again, it was a request that I made. I just didn't want to give up the opportunity of securing some type of evidence that might assist with the investigation.
Did you also take some scene photographs that day?
I did.
What did you do in order to attempt to take those photographs?
Well, I did climb up a hill area that was, it would have been north of the tire track impression area. Attempted to capture some overviews of the scene, including the vehicles that were present. Ultimately, we did want to rule out that those vehicles were the source of the tread pattern that was left.
After your work at the scene on May 22nd, 2016, were you asked to assist in any other way with the investigation into the death of Nicole Vanderheiden?
The next day, I believe that would have been the 23rd, I did report to the sheriff's office for a briefing regarding the incident and to complete some paperwork. On that day, I believe Lieutenant White turned over 2 envelopes to me. Each envelope contained call notes and compact disc recordings of the audio from the 911 calls associated with a missing person report and then the found body report. Again, those were turned over to me to submit into evidence. I did.
And then did you follow up with any other information on the 24th of May?
On the 24th, it was requested that I respond down to the home that Nicole was residing at, the home of Douglas Dietrich on Berkeley Road. I arrived, I was in the driveway for a majority of the time, I believe from 1:02 until 1:32 p.m., at which point I was notified that my assistance would not be needed, so I cleared from the scene without entering the home.
Did you do any other work that day on the case?
On the case, I would assume I did some report writing, but I stand corrected. I did make contact with someone at the Van Wright Farms along with Deputy Bilbo to see if they had any trail cameras mounted. In the past, they had trail cameras mounted at that property. They no longer had.
Do you know if other officers were assigned to be looking for surveillance video in other locations?
Yes, I'm certain. I know Deputy Bilbo is making contact with various locations.
And then it looks like you did not assist in this case in any other way until around September 7th, 2016, is that correct?
In September, I did assist with the serving of a search warrant at, I believe it was 512 15th Ave in the city, home of Matthew Wasserman. But there was one other incident where I assisted with running lights. I can't recall the specific date for Sergeant Lopnow when he was checking the area of 172 between, well, in the area of Bellevue Street. I did run lights with him briefly. Nothing was located, and that would have been documented by Sergeant Lopnow.
And then in terms of your work on September 7th, 2016, what was your role in executing that search warrant?
I arrived, I believe, around, according to my report, I think it was 8:47 a.m. I relieved Sergeant Brider for a period of time to monitor the items. I believe it was electronics, anything associated with phones. And there were shoes to be looked for, I believe, specifically with a herringbone pattern on the sole, or anything else that might have been evidence of the homicide.
And did you personally locate any items at that residence that were taken?
Yes, I located some USB plugs hanging from an elevator outlet by a light switch near the couch in the living room. The couch was covered with a blanket. I believe there's one draped off the back and then one draped over the cushions. That would be consistent with somebody using that area as a place to sleep. I did locate a Reebok duffel bag on what was a table that was also covered with a lot of folded clothing. And inside of that bag, I did locate, I believe it was NEW Landscape mail addressed to George Burch, but it would have been at a different address.
Based on the information that you were provided prior to execution of the warrant, the Sheriff's Office had reason to believe that Mr. Burch was residing at that address?
That is correct.
That was the purpose of executing the search warrant on September 7, 2016?
That was my understanding.
In addition to the Reebok bag and the materials, did you know whether or not shoes were taken from that residence?
I did observe it. It was a very small residence. You couldn't go too far without seeing what the other officers were. The collection of some of the shoes having the herringbone pattern on the bottom.
When you were conducting the search, were you wearing gloves and following other proper protocols for evidence collection?
Yes, sir.
Did you observe other officers doing the same?
Everyone was wearing gloves, and everything was photographed before it was collected.
And did you assist with logging those items into evidence?
I did. Sergeant Brider transported those items from the scene to the sheriff's office, and I did assist him with securing those items into evidence.
Thank you, Cross. Attorney Condo, will you be doing the cross-examination? Attorney Stricker, all right, whenever you're ready.
Officer Hondo, you testified that you took part in the search in the Ledgeview Park Pavilion, correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe the bloody towels that you found?
Well, they would be standard, kind of brownish colored paper towels. Some of them were wet, if I recall properly, and then there was red substance on it that appeared to be coagulating, similar to blood.
Were there multiple towels that had blood on it?
I recalled seeing multiple towels. I didn't want to, once I located the evidence, there were numerous towels in there, but once I located the evidence, I didn't want to pick around it too much and disrupt any evidentiary value it held.
Where were they in the garbage can?
When I located them, they're, I would say, approximately halfway down the bag.
And they were wet paper towels as well?
Correct. I couldn't say if they hadn't gotten wet from other towels that had been set on top of it, or if somebody had poured some water into the garbage bag.
Do you remember observing any blood on the mirror in the bathroom?
I didn't recall seeing the blood on the mirror.
But if there was blood on the mirror, you didn't collect that sample or any sample of it on that day?
I'm sorry, sir?
If there was blood on the mirror, you didn't collect a sample of it on that day, on May 21st?
I didn't see any blood on the mirror, sir.
Thank you. Do you know the location of Ledgeview Park in comparison to where the body was found?
As far as a distance,
Right. And what about the entire East River? Is it close to the East River?
well, I mean, it is fairly close to the East River.
And you took part in a grid search on, was it May 21st?
No, it was, the grid search was May 22nd.
Did you ever search the East River Trail at all?
I don't recall searching the East River Trail.
Do you remember hearing that the East River was ever searched?
I don't recall hearing that. My role in the investigation was not as deep as some others.
Do you know how far away Ledgeview Park is from 2329 Berkeley Road?
I could only estimate that it would probably be within less than a half of a mile.
On the 22nd, when you were present at the grid search, was there a Village of Howard fire chief operating a drone?
Yes, according to the crime scene log, former Howard Fire Chief Ed Yonke arrived at 2:43 p.m.
No further cross, thank you.
Any redirect? This witness can be excused. Officer, you may step down.
Thank you.
Next witness.
This was Deputy Charles Buckle.
Please state your full name and spell your last name.
Charles J. Tussle, T-A-S-S-O-U.
If you may take the stand. And counsel whenever you're ready.
Deputy Tussle, can you state for the record how you were employed?
I am currently employed with the Brown County Sheriff's Office, and I have 17 plus years experience with them.
What's your current position with the Sheriff's Office?
I'm assigned to the Patrol Division, but also I am a crash reconstruction member. I've been doing that since 2006. Yes, there is. Probably the last 5 to 7 years, we've been called out to major crime scenes to assist in the investigative unit.
And what types of assistance do you typically provide to the investigation of major crime scenes?
It all depends on what the investigative unit wants. Most of us have some evidence training background. We can photograph, we take photographs, take video of the crime scene, process the evidence, collect the evidence.